hours. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsSkope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsSkope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsSkope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportsscope@gmail.com. SportsSkope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsSkope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Okay, everybody, now we are live here on All Links, and we're going to have tonight on this Thursday. I know we got a big game going on tonight. A lot of people's thinking about the Central Florida, Fort Myers area, myself including. Thoughts and prayers. You know, I told you I was looking and moving into Tampa a while back. Earlier this year, it looks like Hurricane Ian just missed Tampa. It hit the Fort Myers area. But it looks like the Tampa was saved or whatever. And the mayor and, of course, the NFL now has announced that the game will go on between the Chiefs. Great game. We'll break that down tomorrow. Carlos Chavez, Mad New Yorker Chiefs and Tampa Bay Bucks. Brady versus Mahomes, probably the last one. Maybe they meet again in the Super Bowl. I think this is part 3. Brady being a Tampa Bay Buck. And of course, we've got Cincinnati tonight. I like Cincinnati to win and cover over Miami. Not really sure about Tua. Not sure. I know he's going to play. But I'm simply not sure about Tua. Well, first, the biggest story in sports right now, it's been talked about the last 48 hours. I mean, it's been going on for weeks, but these last few days, it is this home run chase here with Aaron Judge. And the Athletic reported. Now everybody did this, but I've got this off the Athletic in a news conference shortly after the Yankee slugger. This is from the Athletic. Hit his 61st home run. Tying Roger Maris' 61-year-old mark. Think about that. 61 on 61. Maris Jr. The son of Roger Maris, said that Judge should be revered, quote, for being the actual single-season home run champ. If he hits the 62nd home run, New York has 7 games left. Okay? And that's really who he is. If he hits 62, that's what Maris Jr. said. Who has attended every Yankees game since the Judge hit his 60th. He said, I think what needs to happen is I think baseball needs to look at the records. I think baseball should do something. So let me say something about this. And I spent a lot of time now. By the way, going to have Larry Frank, Frankly Speaking Sports. Larry Frank, guys, has got a podcast, and I think he's got a radio show. I'm not sure. I know he does a social media show like I do, and he works with the Northeast Streaming family. But he has big names on his show. Roy Firestone, for example, former ESPN personality. Nick Anderson. He had Nick Anderson, former Orlando Magic, on his show. So I'm going to have him on a little bit later. But let's get back to this, okay? So this idea that everybody does, let's go back to Aaron Judge. Everybody did it. Let's represent the Let's let Mark McGuire. Let's let the 73 by Barry Bonds. Let's let all that stay the way it is because everybody doing it. And the truth of the matter is, I want to say throughout the Mitchell report and the Game of Shadows, which is the Balco investigative book that came out. Remember that Mitchell was a senator, and ultimately from the Jose Canseco book, which proven to be right. The whole, as much as people want to dog out Jose Canseco when his book came out, the truth of the matter is that he was spot on. And after looking up a few articles and listening to several of Jose Canseco's interviews leading up to this, not just today, I was fascinated with it because Canseco will say anything. He's totally unfiltered. He has run a lot of relationships, but the fact of the matter is he cleaned up baseball. Things work in mysterious ways. The Lord works in mysterious ways. You hear that. But the fact is, he did. And he simply never said, quote, everybody's take. He never said that. That was always assumed by the public. Here's a few names that the Mitchell report never came up with. Jose Canseco never mentioned, and he's throwing anybody and everybody. Juan Gonzalez, Rafael Palmeiro, Mark McGuire, Bonds. Now, Bonds came up through the Balco book and everything, the Game of Shadows book. But these are players that I watched personally as a kid that they rose up gradually, and then they fell gradually as they got older and their body started to decay like we all do. Players like Ken Griffey Jr., up 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, up. Then he starts go. Then he goes to Cincinnati, down. Then he finally retires. Long career, no steroid, no PED, none of that stuff. Guys like Jim Thome. Jim Thome was a naturally big guy. Same thing with Frank Thomas. They both kind of have the same frame. You can tell that their power is pretty authentic looking, and their numbers gradually up. Mid-90s, 95, 96 really hit home with him and Thome and players like Derek Jeter, Vlad Guerrero, kind of a country strong looking kind of guy, great arm. And these people are never linked. Cal Ripken. Now, Cal Ripken has the Iron Man most games played, and he wasn't most effective in every game. Cal Ripken Jr., Baltimore, right? Chipper Jones, Atlanta fans. None of those players I just mentioned were Carlos says Ozzie Smith. Ozzie Smith was 5'0", 100, and he learned how to play shortstop, hitting a softball off the wall over and over and over. So he learned how to play that off the hop, play off the hop. So very natural guys, So my thing is, it's not everybody was doing it, but I do like to revisit the whole steroid thing. People mocked Canseco. He was broke. Both can be true, by the way. Wrote the book because he was broke and yada, yada, yada. And remember this famous line, folks, by Rafael Palmeiro in March of 2005 in front of Congress. This is what Palmeiro says. I love this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Rafael Palmeiro, and I am a professional baseball player. I'll be brief in my remarks today. Let me start by telling you this. I have never used steroids, period. I do not know how to say it any more clearly than that.
That was in March. In August of the same year, he was suspended 10 games for steroids. August of that year. Now, once all this stuff came out, I mean, people like Roger Clemens looked like a total fool. Their pride and ego was so bruised that he goes through great lengths to defend the fact that, he's saying he, air quote, didn't use steroids. That was comical. Not as comical as what Rafael Palmeiro did. Palmeiro comes in there and he has the really nice I can't show you the thing on here, but he's got the really nice striped suit, Corey. Really clean cut. There's no telling what this suit costs. I would love to have a suit like that, even though mine was not cheap. But I don't have Rafael Palmeiro money. So he's in Congress, March of 2005. I'm still at Austin Peay. And I'm hearing it, and I'm thinking, man, maybe Canseco really is trying to make a buck. Jose Canseco, I remember once reading that he used to charge people to hang out with him so he can make some money that way. He really had some sliminess about him, kind of a creepy mentality back in his younger days. He's a wild guy and out of control. I've listened to a recent interview, though, and he's a lot more tame now and easy going. And I remember him and Barry Bonds met up at the All-Star game one time, and they were in the locker room. And Bonds, Canseco takes his shirt off, and Bonds said, "Dang, what have you been doing, man?" And then Canseco comes back at Bonds and says, "Nothing that you haven't been doing." And all of it proves out to be true. But again, a lot of the players, pitchers also, that were found out in the Mitchell report, guys like Eric Gagne, Kevin Brown made a lot of money. Pitcher for the LA Dodgers. This guy made a $100 million contract. Juan Gonzalez, Brady Anderson. See, that's an example. Brady is a prime example of a player who had average stats, average, 23, 25 home runs, 51. Just, man, knocks the cover off the ball. Well, he was mentioned in the Mitchell report. So it was not really one of those deals where you could kind of tell. McGuire hit 47. I don't know if he done steroids in 87 when he hit that in his rookie year, because he looked a lot smaller. I'll have to. Now, some of my friends are here. I think Keith is actually friends with Canseco on Facebook. By the way, Facebook, I'm meeting a lot of people. I'm going to bring a guest on. Hopefully, Larry is not got caught up anywhere. But if he did, that's going to be okay. But Larry, if you're out there, come on in, my friend. I said around 7:15. We got about 4 minutes. We're good. So anyways, it was comical. But again, Roger Maris Jr., and I like what he says here. He says, that's who he really is in Aaron Judge. Judge is at 61. He's going for the Triple Crown this year. I want to say he's like 30, 31, Carlos, right? So he's technically in his prime. When you hit 30, 31, 32, you are mentally there and you're physically there for baseball, basketball, football. Yeah, possibly you could be on the backside depending on your position. A quarterback 31, 32, you should be there on both ends, physically still and mentally. You've got about 8 or 9 years in the NFL. You've seen what everybody can throw at you. You've played the league at that point, and you're smart enough, hopefully, to keep your body in good shape. So I think Judge is clean. And you say, well, why do you say that? How come they're not? What has Major League Baseball done? Well, for one thing, Fernando Tatis Jr., a rising, meteor type of star potential, and San Diego, very talented. San Diego Padre, 14-year, $350 million contract signed last year, only to be suspended for 80 games this year for performance PEDs. So if baseball was turning the other eye like they did then, why would they suspend a player of that caliber now? Because they're trying to clean it up, Baseball's slow to react to things. They're just now going to go to the pitch clock, talking about eliminating shift, stuff like that. The next step is shorten the season, guys. That's the next step. But the fact that guys like Fernando Tatis, if they were suspending a bunch of nobodies and no superstar, no emergent star was being suspended for half the season, then I would be suspect of Major League Baseball. And trust me, if I wanted to criticize you, for those of you who have followed me for a number of years on this program, I would just love to get rip into baseball. I don't mind ripping into baseball. Baseball's too long. It's been too short. Too slow. Too long a season. Too slow. The pace is bad. There's too many unwritten rules in baseball. People can't have fun, So anyways, I've got Larry Frank in the studio there from Frankly Speaking Sports. I'm going to bring him right in on this. Then we'll get a little bit of his background information. Welcome to the program, Larry Frank.
How you doing?
Tampa Bay's jersey on.
Yeah, I do actually.
So let me ask you something. So you're originally from upstate New York, right?
From Long Island.
Long Island. Oh, okay, Long Island. And so did you grow up in Florida?
I moved to Florida when I was 18 years old.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I've been there a while.
Yeah. And I could see you're a baseball fan. Okay. I don't know if you heard my rant backstage. I am of the, I don't know if you read what Roger Maris Jr. said that this should be the record if Judge does it and that when these next 7 games hits that 60-second. And I went on a rant about Major League Baseball coming down on guys like Fernando Tatis. And I named a boatload of players who never came up in the Mitchell report, the Balco, none of that stuff. So, in your opinion, should 62, if hit by Aaron Judge, should that be the respectable single-season home run record?
No, not at all. Barry Bonds, he owns that record, whether he was doing PEDs, not doing PEDs. The end of the day, the record is the record. And, if they want to put an asterisk near it, do whatever you may. But at the end of the day, everybody talks about PEDs. And, at the end of the day, PEDs doesn't give you better eye contact. It doesn't give you the ability to know when to swing at a pitch and when not to swing at the pitch. Okay, you still have to have talent and the ability to hit the baseball. It does let you hit a little bit further, but if you didn't have all that other ability, it doesn't matter how strong you are.
That's a fair point. Mike Golick from Mike and Mike, he says, steroids didn't make me a better player. It helped me get over my injuries faster. So that's a fair point. That is, I can go along with that.
And how many times did Barry Bonds walk in his career? Because either intentionally they were afraid to pitch to him, or he had the eye that allowed him not to switch, which had nothing to do with PEDs.
Yeah, I had Jim Jeffcoat on from the Northeast Streaming Sports Family or Family Connection or whatever, and he said he went to school with Barry Bonds back at Arizona State. And, he said, we knew this guy was going to be a star then. I mean, even at 185 pounds, you look at his average, eye contact, eye-hand coordination, ability to play the field. He says the players hated him, but we loved him. I mean, we got along with him fine. I said, well, maybe because you're, 6 foot whatever, 100 whatever, or 200 whatever, and y'all probably kick his butt. But he's like, nah, he was good, man. Next question here. Now, this is a hot topic. It's not a hot topic. It's a topic that's getting warm. I will say it's getting this Cooper Rush thing. It's getting warm now. Dallas has got to play Washington on Sunday. I think they'll beat Washington. The next two games, they've got to play, I think the Rams and Philadelphia, not necessarily in that order. If Cooper Rush wins these two games, now he's already 3-0. Did a little research. His last three games versus Dak Prescott's last three games, they are getting 6 rushes per game more, attempts more with Rush there than the last 3 starts with the Dak Prescott. You know, the completion percentage is better. They're just playing better with this guy. Zeke Elliott had a 30-yard run on Monday night. That's the best run I've seen him since his freshman year, since his rookie year at Dallas. My thing is, I understand they have paid Zeke Elliott or Dak Prescott a lot of money. I had Keith Fingal on the other day, TGI Sports, big New England guy. I reminded him about the 2001 contract that Drew Bledsoe signed for 10 years, $100 million, insane football contract, 10 years for a quarterback. And that same year, they lose 2 games, the 6th round pick. They move on from Bledsoe. So the money's not – maybe Cooper Rush is playing better in camp. That's what Keith Engel says. My thing is, if he wins these next 3 games, do you stay with Cooper Rush or you go back to Dak?
It's a tough decision. I mean, you know, you got the one thing that you said, you hit it right on. You paid this guy a lot of money. You didn't pay this guy all this money so he can sit on the bench. The other one says you win 5 games in a row. Do you stay with the hot hand? I think they're going to put Dak back in when Dak's ready. Dak Prescott is the quarterback of this team. I don't think there's any question about that. I think if they want to change something, maybe they need to maybe get a new owner there that'll stay out of the public eye and let the right people do the coaching here. But I think Dak Prescott now, you know, like you said, then the question comes up, what happens if they do put Dak in and he struggles at the beginning? Do you put Cooper back in? So there's a lot to play with. I mean, we're still, 3 weeks away from that date. So although you did notice, but that Dak's trying to hurry it up a little bit. So it makes me wonder if, you know, in the back of his head, he's thinking, this is another Tony Romo thing where, you know, remember that's how he got in. Tony got hurt, Dak came in, and Dak held on to the job.
Yeah, and there you go. That's a good point. And you know, Jack Hirsch brought that up the other day. So why would Dak even be upset when that's how Tony Romo, he ends up going to CBS afterwards. Now, I understand Dak is 29, Cooper Rush is 28. I get all that. And I even had a plan B. I mean, I even thinking ahead. I like to play, this is sports talking, I like to play armchair quarterback. I like to play armchair general manager. I don't really like to play armchair player, but I could probably play armchair player, right? They could potentially trade Dak to a Seattle or something in the offseason. Do what you got to do. You think about guys like Matt Flynn. He gets this contract with Seattle some years ago, back in, I want to say 2010. They draft a 3rd-round pick out of Wisconsin. Well, this guy, 3rd-round pick out of Wisconsin, turns out to be Russell Wilson. Sometimes you just get beat out, man. You know, it's not like it's totally out of the ordinary. Jason Whitlock, when he was reporting out of Kansas City, he brought up a similar situation with Elvis Gerbach and Rich Gannon. And everybody was saying, but this Rich Gannon guy looks way better than Elvis Gerbach. But they were paid Elvis Gerbach all this money. They moved Rich Gannon. He goes to the Raiders, wins MVP of the league. They get to the Super Bowl. So you look at the fact that Jerry Jones is 80 years old. He's not getting any younger. I mean, why worry about people's feelings getting hurt? Dak has probably made, 70, 80 if you count endorsements. And plus, he's got his guaranteed money.
See, I think if you're smart here, you ride this Cooper Rush thing out And then you have the ability to maybe trade Cooper Rush for some good, tough, high draft picks, because all you're doing is letting that stock go up right now by him playing well. And there's people out there that need quarterbacks, as you know. It could be a good situation for them, although Jerry likes the controversy.
That's what he said, and he meant that. He wants to be on the radio every week. He's always air quote brand building. How many times they've been on Hard Knocks? Twice
that I know of.
Yeah, I'm out of Nashville. You're out of Hopkinsville, which I got to ask you that here in a little bit. I don't know how you went from New York to, I understand Florida, but to Hopkinsville, that's pretty interesting. A good friend of mine lives up in Hopkinsville. He's a big Kentucky fan. But, I just think that, they've had the Hard Knocks thing. You've had the all or nothing deal. That was the Amazon series. So he's so much into this brand building. He likes to threaten the coaches on the air or kind of send a little subtle shots. Remember the defensive coordinator, he's wanting to potentially he may make somebody a good head coach. And he likes to get everybody fired up. But, this Cooper Rush guy, I know, like I said, it's warm. But so you're saying, if you're in charge, do you let Cooper Rush at least play these next 3 games out? If Dak is say he's ready like next week, do you say, let's keep Cooper Rush in and see what happens?
Well, I don't think you bring him back quicker than expected, because all you're doing is risking, the injury to come back again. So at the same time, you have to ask your question: do we need Dak right now to win games? If Cooper's winning games, then that gives you enough time to let Dak heal properly before bringing him back, and then, risking the chance of him getting injured again.
Yeah. Or maybe you could exaggerate the injury. And in-house, you'll say, well, we're going to bench you in-house, but publicly, we're going to say, we want to make sure and get this finger right. We don't want to take any chances. We're in a tight division race.
Yeah, but right now, if you're saying you got to pick one or the other today, I'm picking Dak Prescott.
So you're on Team Dak.
Well, it's not a matter of being Team Dak. It's a matter of what's best for the team right now. Yes, they won 2 games, but you can't say they wouldn't have won those 2 games without Dak, because we don't know. He didn't play. Dak, has proven year over year that he has the ability to be a great quarterback. Okay, this team has the team to really win some football games. But like I said, there's got to be a common denominator here. How has this team had so much talent the past 5 or 6 years, but they keep missing the playoffs or just barely getting in? The common denominator has to be Jerry Jones.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I don't know if they'll ever win another Super Bowl as long as he's in charge, or why he's still living, not to be morbid, but just being frank about it, frankly speaking, sports here. So it is what it is. It's a nice little soap opera for shows like yours and mine. I like this stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's great for sports talk. I mean, it gives us something to talk about every day. But, at the end of the day, it's funny. We've seen coaches. I remember it was it 10 years ago? You can correct me if I'm wrong. When Schottenheimer was coaching San Diego, he was 14-1 or 15-1, lost in the first round of the playoffs, and they fired him.
Yeah.
They fired him.
Back in 2006.
Yep, and it's all about winning. It's a result-oriented business, and, we talk about it in pros and in college. People don't have the patience to wait anymore.
That is true, and quite frankly, they took over. They put in Norv Turner, for crying out loud, and they got worse. I mean, if you're going to fire a guy like Marty Schottenheimer, go out and get a Parcells or somebody.
Lost 1 game during the season.
Yeah. Well, he got too conservative in that Patriot game, and that just annoyed the ownership and the general manager, from my understanding. LT Rivers was still very young. I remember that. Yeah, that was crazy, man. I thought it was 14-2, but they had the number 1 overall seed. So it is food for thought. Now, like I was telling you in the email the other day, and we was talking about through messaging and everything. I went up and covered the Tennessee, did a little tailgate party. Talked to some people, had some technical issues. It was kind of a pain in the butt, but I could feel the college atmosphere. Game day was up there in Knoxville, and they look really good. They got the number one offense in the country. We're about 4 games in. Do you see any sleepers that maybe nobody was talking about in the preseason that may slide their way in to this college football playoff?
Well, I like Tennessee. I mean, I really do. I mean, when you look at Herndon Hooker, first of all, you mentioned the offense, 48.5 points per game right now. And we're early. The competition's only going to get better. We know that. Yeah. They're averaging 559 yards of total offense per game. Their quarterback is unbelievable. Hooker. What is he? He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. Yeah. There's not much this kid can't do. And, Tillman goes down. They have McCoy steps up. So they got offensively, they look good, Rob. But the big question on this Tennessee team that scared me was they gave 33 points up to Florida, and Anthony Richardson looked like a Heisman Trophy winner versus them when he's not really that. He has potential. Yeah. Okay, don't get me wrong. But they shouldn't look like that versus the caliber team. So Tennessee is definitely one of them. I had Arkansas as my surprise team before the year started. Yeah. They lost a tough game to A&M, but the defense was great in that game. It was a fumble that was run back and lateral that really took, they were up 14-0. They should have won that game, missed a field goal at the end. Now they ranked 20th, Rob, but they play Alabama this week, and you know that an upset versus Alabama can take you a long way in the polls, right back up to around number 10 in the polls if they can beat Alabama. So those were my 2 teams at the beginning, Tennessee and Arkansas. But a team that I'm liking a lot out of North Carolina or South Carolina is that Clemson team looks good. Yeah. I mean, that Clemson team, they lost 3 games last year. They made it sound like they were terrible or something. They weren't. They won the last 6 games of the year last year. Yeah. Nobody's counting them at, in that top 4. And this guy, DJ Ugalele, is incredible.
That's a mouthful, that last name. And it's like Giannis.
My goodness gracious. I've been practicing for hours here. But, they got NC State this week, which is a good ACC matchup. They're 4-0 as well. So those are the 3 teams. Now, those are teams that people would think of. The one dark horse, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, is I like that Florida State team.
Wow. You brought him on. You brought one of their commentators. Was it the play-by-play guy?
Yeah, the one play-by-play guy.
Is he from radio or TV?
Yep. He was on, and the thing they got the Travis kid that is just incredible at quarterback. They're winning. They were 0-4 to start last year. They're 4-0 to start this year. Yeah. It's just a team that if you're looking at a squeaker, I mean, this team is 2 games away from being bowl eligible already.
Man. Yeah. And Norvell, I like your interview. By the way, check out Frankly Speaking on Monday, right? Now, what time does your show come on?
Okay, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central. We only are doing Mondays right now. What I did was I was doing shows Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And how much preparation and time it takes to do with research to do a show. And I was having a lot of people ask me, can you come on my show? Can you come on my show? And I'm like, well, I don't have time. I'm always doing my show. Yeah. And during the day I have other obligations. So I decided we're doing College Football Monday right now, every single Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then I'm also on an AM station out of Raleigh, North Carolina, Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
So you do that show from Hopkinsville?
Yes.
And what time? Now, can you get that off iHeartRadio?
Yeah, on the podcast platform on iHeart. Yes.
Okay, guys, and let me just give you some praise for a second. Okay, Larry Frank, folks, has had some big names the Bowden. Who was it? Bobby Bowden's son, Tommy Bowden, the son of Bob. How did you get Roy Firestone, former ESPN longtime personality? You had Roy Firestone on your program. How did that work out? It was a good interview, by the way.
I'll tell you what, he's unbelievable. What you talk about a nice guy who has a bunch of stories, and a lot of people don't know that Roy is a comedian, a real life comedian.
I didn't know that.
When you get him on your show, he's going to tell you some real good, funny stories that have happened in his time. And we've had Tim Brown, the Heisman. Tim Brown from Notre Dame, and then the Raiders. On. Jeff Garcia's been on. We've had a lot of professional baseball players on. Former players. So we've done real well getting these players on.
Yeah. I'm. And so you do your own show, plus you do that. So that's your full-time job. You work for this Tobacco Road.
No. That's just me. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay the bills, Rob. I still have to do some other stuff out there. But, that's one of the reasons I opened up my schedule so that hopefully somebody out there, you never know, that is looking for someone, maybe make something financially out of it. I don't charge anybody for advertising or anything on my shows.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, get some revenue. I'm just now going Monday through Friday myself and trying to build this brand from the ground up. And I've got some of my regulars here. I've started about 5 years ago doing just the social media show back in 2017. So I'm right there with you. Now I'm a carrier for 8 hours. I'm a medical. I used to do carrier work from 12 to 14 hours a day. And then that got a little bit much. So I'm like, then when I was doing that, I was only doing one show a week because it was killing me. Getting out here, driving around Nashville all day, running blood and urine specimens, dealing with 5 o'clock traffic. Go figure. So how long? So what made you want to get into sports talk?
Well, I've always thought of going into sports talk. I was involved in at one time. I actually went to school for sports administration way back. Yep. But an opportunity, New York Yankees, when I was doing some time with them, they offered me a director of operations job in Greensboro, North Carolina. Beautiful area. Back in, I think it was 1987. I'm going back now. And they wanted me to be director of stadium operations, but the pay was nothing. Minor league baseball does not pay very well. Well, at the same time, I was offered a job in the restaurant business. I took the restaurant business, and 30 years later, I was still doing restaurants.
What was you managing?
General manager.
Okay.
So I did internships with the Yankees, the Miami Dolphins, and things like that. And then I always wanted to get into this. And then when I, after COVID started, right before COVID, I decided to put a show together because there was a lack of sports out there. Yeah. So I wanted to give people that opportunity to still not forget the sports world and get some people. A lot of people had time to, obviously during COVID, to come on, do interviews and things like that because they were stuck in a house just like all of us were. And the show went from, one person a day to where we started out to sometimes over, $7,000 to $10,000 7,000 to 10,000 people an episode. Watch.
Man. Yeah. And like I said, I'm really impressed with the names. Nick Anderson from Orlando Magic. I like that. So you're kind of like Keith Engel with Northeast Stream. That's what he got started. He started during the pandemic. I listen to him. I think this guy's been working 15 years in sports talk, radio, and whatnot. He's been at less time than I have. And, he's got some big name baseball people, and he just found them off Facebook. That's how I found most of the people off Facebook. I would imagine now you're with Northeast streaming. Is that how you got caught up with Linda and Mac? Did they just come up to you and saw your show online?
Yeah, I forget exactly how it happened, but either Mac or Linda. I think it was Mac got in touch with me and he said, why don't you, love to have you. This is what it'll take. We're a growing network, and I'd love you to come on board. And Mac and I and Linda, we hit it off pretty good. And next thing you know, we were doing 3 shows a night for them, Monday through Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Yeah. So you slowed that down because you got everything else.
Yeah, I had to slow down a little bit. I mean, it was taking me, and like I said, people don't realize that when we do shows like this, the research and preparation that goes, it's not just an hour show, and it only takes us an hour.
Yeah.
It takes me 2 hours sometimes beforehand to do all my research, get it ready, sometimes a little longer. And then after the show, there's a lot of sharing and making sure all your necessary platforms that you deal with are getting this show, because you can only stream on StreamYard. The most you can stream to is 8 places, and there's a lot more groups that want to see the show than are not able to see the show unless they join one of those platforms.
Right. Yeah, and I thought that was funny. My sister, she's been watching my show, Olivia, and she's very supportive. Actually, I'm much more introverted than my sister. She works in sales. She's real pushy. And it was just funny. I was telling the audience there, my dad watches the program. For everybody else, Larry sends me a message. Who is Olivia? She keeps sharing your show on your page. Can I share my show on your page? I said, of course you can. I said, that's my unofficial social media manager.
Right. Yeah. She's a good lady.
One person in your family that just they're the light of the party. They're the big mouth at the Thanksgiving. That's my sister, Olivia.
Yeah, she's a good lady. She shares my stuff. I share, all the stuff that is.
And that's what I told her to do. I said, yeah, help Larry out. He's a worker, man. This guy gets down with it, and he's a grinder. Like
we were supposed to have, last week, Monday night. No, I'm sorry, the previous week, Tuesday that passed, when we were still on Tuesday doing the college football show. We moved it to Monday now.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have Dennis Erickson, if you remember that name.
Wow. Yeah. The Hurricanes.
Right. But he had hip surgery.
Oh,
so
wow.
he had to, unfortunately, he had to take care of his health. That's more important. But he texted me he had a hip replacement or surgery or something. But he was supposed to be on the show as well. So he's going to be on in the future as well.
Yeah. Dennis Erickson. Yeah, he is something, man. I want to say he coached for the 49ers too, right?
Yes, that's the same one. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I want to make sure I got all my little questions and answers here. Stephen Davis from the Carolina Panthers. Yes. You said you lived in Carolina. So how did you get to Hopkinsville? I'm sorry. I'm a little out of order here.
Well, you mentioned the medical field. That's what did it. My wife's in the medical field, and at the time when we moved, I was in Florida 36 years. And then an opportunity came up, and we always my brother lives in Clarksville anyway. Okay. Right in Oak Grove over here. So the opportunity came up, and she said, what do you think about Tennessee? And I'm like, at that time I was out of the restaurant business already. I said, well, if we're going to do it, now's the time to do it. So we did it. And she's working.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was wondering what brought you all the way to Hopkinsville. I figured it would be a good gig. Hopefully they'll bring it down to Nashville. We got a lot of medical. Nashville's growing too fast, man. I mean, it's like Tampa was a few years, and Dallas. Remember Dallas in the 80s? Just woo. But that's exactly about what I figured. It was something of that nature.
And we've been putting people
pretty close by.
Yeah, we're trying to get some local people on here too. We've already had, Caroline Fenton of 102.5 The Game is on Stillman and Company.
Yes.
She's been on the show. Jared, we've asked to come on the show. Chase McCabe, the producer, has been on our show already. So
what about Jared? Jared's a little standoffish with me, but did he ever come on your program?
He has not been on my program yet. He's been invited, so we're still waiting him. He's stand up, but the one thing about Jared that you got to respect is whether you agree with him or disagree with you, the man believes in what he's saying.
Yeah.
He just doesn't
Real
come
young
across.
guy. Real young guy.
He doesn't, in other words, if he tells you it's his honest opinion. Now, one thing about talk radio, as you know, Robert, is we have to agree to disagree. So, because there's two sides to every story. So, some of the things he says, I'm like, where are you coming from, buddy?
Yeah.
But other things, he makes some good points. I don't like to be as down on the local teams as Jared does. Sometimes I think he does that a little too much, but his passion and the way he exemplifies his passion for his teams is a little different maybe than you and I just do it.
Yeah. Jared, when he first got that job, I'm working, and I know he's really young. He's really young. He's about 10 years younger than me. And I'm listening to the callers call in, and they're giving him a hard way to go because he's a young guy. So I call in, I try to help him out, and because I kind of felt sorry for the guy. And so they give me the little card, I win a prize. I get like a free pizza. What's the name of that pizza place where they give you the frozen pizza?
Murphy something, yeah.
Yes, Papa Murphy's
or something, yeah.
Yeah, so I would win it every time. And then, so I called one time, and I give him all these examples to help make his point. He's like, that's too many examples. And he just hung up on me. I'm like, okay, kid. All right, you're on your own now. So they call you and bash you. They're just going to call you and bash you. And I try to help you out here. But he's pretty good though. He's started young and he took chances. I think he worked in like New Hampshire or something like that for a while. And he took a small jobs, and he's got a job here. I've met some of the local people here, Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow. You remember those two guys?
I heard the names.
Yeah. 1045 The Zone. They're not bad. Got jobs right out of college and went right on to 1045. Now they work with Outkick and
Al's been on my show several times.
Who?
Outkick.
Oh, Outkick. It's a website. Clay Travis.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about the individual. He's a sportscaster out of Tampa. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah. And like I was saying with the audience, I mean, you've had a lot of big names. Now, was that through your AM connections, or that was just through your Facebook stuff?
That's through me doing all different social media, whatever you call it, contacting.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work. I tell people sometimes it takes me for every one person to say yes. It sometimes takes like 100 no's. So you just got to keep going and going and going. And eventually, then you start getting a consistency of having, good quality guests on. Some of the other guests goes, wow, you've been on my show. I mean, we've had Mike the Hitman Eastler has been on our show. Lots of famous, like I said, baseball players, basketball, football, hockey players. A lot of them have been on.
Carlos says, I've been on Frank's as a typer chat guy. Now, Carlos and myself, now you're from Long Island. Out of high school. Had this dream, wanted to become an actor. Real quick story. Saved up, moved up there in 2001, just after 9/11, with a friend of mine from high school here. He's wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to be an actor. Long story short, lived up in Manhattan, $1,200 a month studio apartment, 100 square feet. If you know anything about Manhattan, so we'll come back here, go to Austin P. Carlos Chavez over here in 2002. He's from New York, but he moves back home. So we meet up at Austin P at the UC University Center, and I'm starting to pick up their accent a little bit. He gives me a hard way to go about that. And been friends ever since, on and off for 20 years. And now he kind of comes on my show. He does on Fridays. We just now started that, breaking down games and everything. But yeah, he's, like I said, he likes your show. He said, I've been on Frank's show as a typer. You memorize Carlos?
Oh yeah.
Bad New Yorker?
The Mad New Yorker.
Oh, man. Yeah, Pickles says Nashville's like Atlanta 20 years ago.
I don't know. Atlanta traffic. Oh boy, that's terrible over there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Pickles also says, do you get into NASCAR being in North Carolina? Did you ever cover NASCAR stuff?
Yeah, we've had NASCAR on before. I'm trying to think. We've had a lot of the guys that do reporting over there on our show before. Chris was on our show.
Okay.
I forget. I'm sorry. I'm lost. Forgot. Went
Jeff
blank
Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., any of those folks?
We tried to get them on, but they're not as receptive as some of the other ones.
Okay. What name have you been trying that you couldn't get?
Well, I'm still trying all the big names. We've been trying. I actually sent it. Adam Silver has responded back, the commissioner of the NBA.
Wow.
Pete Rose, we've tried to get on. So there's some big. I mean, all the big names you can think of out there, but there's so much. They get so much of it.
Yeah.
If there's not one person, there's 1,000 more asking. So sometimes it's like when I had Jack McDowell's been on my show, the former Cy Young Award winner.
Oh yeah.
And then I had another one that said, Larry, I couldn't believe how many times you asked me to come on your show. I had to say yes.
Wow. Who was that? Jack McDowell?
I can't remember which one, but I can't remember who that was. I know Roy White's going to be coming on, if you remember Roy White.
That sounds familiar.
New York Yankees. Jesse Barfield is scheduled. So we got some good future guests.
Yeah, that's all. And I want to tell the audience, you had a Sports Illustrated writer from Clemson. He was great Monday too, by the way.
Oh yeah, and we've had other ones, and especially in the college one. Dick Weiss, also from the famous sports writer. We've had a lot of the sports writers on before. From all different teams. It's just we've had a lot of success. I would say this is our third year. I think we've done close to 1,000 different interviews already.
Wow, man, I'm lagging.
But it's fun. It's really fun, and like I said, Jeff Garcia was another one. Remember the quarterback?
Yeah, 49ers. Yeah.
Yep. So
we
just had Ray Sherman on.
Most surprised by Larry, or who I can't believe. Was you ever nervous with any of these guys?
I was wondering how I would react, but after doing the first or second show,
yeah,
I stopped being nervous.
Okay,
it just feels natural now. And like I said, you ask, I was, there's certain people you'll find out, Rob, you expect to be so joyful and everything. They come on your show, they're the complete opposite. And then you go, oh no, this is going to be one of the hardest guys to interview. And they end up being the best interview you've ever done. So you just really can't tell. But I'll tell you who was true. Jeff Garcia was awesome.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. There's a lot of them have been unbelievable, but I really haven't had. And then you just know to turn it on or off. If you're trying to pull teeth to get out of it, you end the conversation quicker. Well, thank you so much. After so much, you find the way out. But I haven't had much of that. I've been very, very lucky. Maybe one or two of them where it was like you're almost thinking, why do you even agree to come on my show? But other than that, they're great. They've been great.
Yeah, which one did you feel the least comfortable? Anybody think, oh my God, this guy?
There really wasn't. I'll tell you what, what was his name? Whoa. There's a couple. No one sticks out, really. I mean, no one's really made me. No one's made me feel uncomfortable. I think the hardest one was, and I'm blanking names now. The play-by-play announcer of the Seattle Mariners, Dave Sims. That's who.
Okay.
He's a very direct guy.
Yeah.
And if you ask a question that he doesn't think is a good question, he's going to let you know it's not a good question. So it's one of those type. He, you know, one a very direct person, but I'll tell you what, he's a great interview, but he can feel intimidating a little bit, but it was great to me. He came on my show several times, you know, during the baseball deadlines and trade deadlines. He came on, I mean, with who was it? Brett Boone came on with them.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And if you remember the name Brian McRae.
Yeah.
They all came on. That was that's a show where we did 4 or 5 people that were former major league players came on. Jack McDowell, like I said. So, you know, we've had lots and lots of people. I can't remember them all, I mean, to be honest with you. But, you know, then I went back to my childhood and I got people. I was a big Mets fan growing up. So Eddie Kranepool has been on my show. You know, he was the original New York Met.
Okay.
Jim Gosger, who played 1969 World Series champion for the Mets, but never got a ring.
Wow. You know, I'm friends with Doc Gooden now on Facebook, just Facebook. I'm trying to get him on my program. If the Mets make it to the World Series, maybe bring a Doc Gooden on, and maybe for you too. I'm reading Mike Westhoff, special teams coach.
I know Mike real well.
Yeah, he seems intimidating. I got some funny stuff to bring up with him. Hopefully, I can get him on next week. Now, he said reach out to his assistant, and I think Mike lives down in South Florida. He may be caught up in that hurricane, so I'm not sure. But he's my next one personally.
Also, a really good one, although he's in you know, I know he's fighting some illnesses right now, but one of my favorite ones. They're all favorites. Don't get me wrong, but Tommy John was great.
Oh, wow.
Tommy John.
He got cancer or something?
Tommy and I knew each other back when he was with the Yankees and I was there. So, but he didn't remember me first off. You know what I'm saying? So it was like a reacquaintance, but Tommy John was unbelievable. He was so funny. So funny.
Wow.
And then
now that you mention
we get some people on that have passed away, which you know, you get to know these people. Jeff Innes was a great interview of the New York Mets. He passed away.
Wow.
Actually, John Stearns, who just passed away recently, I think last week, former catcher of the New York Mets, All-Star, was actually supposed to come on our show in the future.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, you get to learn these people, and it's, you know, Fred Clare, the guy who built the dynasty of the Los Angeles Dodgers. As a general manager and an executive has been on the show.
You ever bring on Jack Hirsch from Mac and Jack?
Oh, yeah. Those guys, I'm on with them, too. Because, you know, we do, especially during the NFL times when we were doing the draft. I was in Tampa then. They'd get me from the stadium on draft night.
Yeah, you had all the red Tampa stuff in the background.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. Pickles says something because he remembers from my show, Pickles does, Jack Hirsch and Hurricane Carter. He says he's, you know, he wanted to interview Hurricane Carter about his career, but Hurricane Carter wanted to talk about the Boxing Hall of Fame and who should be in it. And he says that, Hurricane just gets out of prison. And Jack is saying, it was a funny story, kind of similar to what we're talking about. He says, you know, I think I don't want to be the guy who gets him put back in jail for kicking my butt, you know, for asking him questions about him instead of staying with the boxing career. Then he said, I learned maybe, you know, you kind of got to ease in those questions, go with what he wants to talk about, and then go into some other questions after he puts his guard down. Jack tells me that story.
You might be a little young, but one of the other guys that was a terrific interview. Do you remember the name Jerry Cooney?
That sounds familiar. All these
heavyweight
names.
Boxer.
Okay.
Jack would remember him. He's been on my show, and Sean O'Grady has been on my show as well. Some former boxers as well.
So, what is your goal? Are you doing like a Sirius XM show? What would your plan be?
You know, if I had an opportunity, I would like to go ahead and, you know, be on the air somewhere and do a local radio show. Yeah. I think that would be great. Or just a show where I do interviews. You know, I thought about that, just doing interviews rather than, you know, kind of like Roy Firestone did in the early days when I used to watch him. It was, I believe, Up Close, it was called. and he would just interview people after interview. So, it's tougher now because people have, everybody's screening who can talk to him, who can't, and this and that. But keep plugging away, you'll get him.
Hey, is Firestone how is he doing? Is he retired now, or is he just doing other things?
He's on tour. He's a lot in Vegas doing comedian shows.
Okay, because he's 68. He looks young.
Yeah, he's been around forever. I mean, since I was a kid. So he's got to be in his 60s, I would think.
Yeah, Roy Firestone. Okay, so when are your show times again?
Right now, we're just doing Monday night, 9 p.m., College Football Monday.
And that's for right now.
Right, okay. And then I'm on the rundown on the you can see it also on my Frankly Speaking Sports channels, the rundown with Desmond Johnson on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. That's usually Saturday mornings at 10 a.m.
Okay. Yeah, tune in because, like I said, everybody, this guy does not bring on clown. I'm surprised. I appreciate you coming on with me, Larry.
Oh, no, anytime, man. You know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good night. And everybody, I appreciate you all watching. Pickles is saying hilarious by Jack. I'm trying to say Tommy John. I just want to get a few of the comments in here. Only guy known best for, Tommy John surgery. Who has a surgery? I mean, Lou Gehrig's disease. Tommy John surgery. I mean, that's, if you think about Tommy John's, I mean, that's unbelievable.
He had a better record after the Tommy John surgery than he did before.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Yep.
Who would have thought? Appreciate you again. I'll bring you back. And if you need me to come on, you know how to get a hold of me.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.